Hi, almost everyone is watching my channel without a subscription. Please support me and subscribe. I release videos every day for you. Story 1. I told my dad the real reason why I didn't want to go on vacation with his family, and it almost ruined his marriage. I am a 17-year-old male. When I was around 9, my dad, 39M, started seeing a friend of my mom's, cheated on my mom, they married, and they now have 3 kids together. My dad asked for custody, and he was granted to have me on weekends. He seemed happy to have me and always tried to include me in everything, but it was kind of weird and frustrating. He even tried to make me call his wife mom, and went for full custody several times. Since being with his wife and making me accept his new family was more important than spending actual time with me alone, I stopped going to his house. When I was 14, he tried to fight for full custody after my mom started dating my stepdad, a nice guy, but I told him to stop. The other reason why I stopped going, I never told my dad this one, is because his wife was so hostile towards me. My dad used to pay attention to me when I was there, so I think she didn't like it that way, and one day told me behind my dad's back that I was an obstacle to my dad's happiness, that I should just stay with my mom full time. Their anniversary was 5 days ago. I didn't want to go, but he called my mom to threaten that if I didn't go, he'd go to court. He took his 4 kids, including me, his wife, his parents, and his parents-in-law to celebrate at a nice restaurant. Once there, he said that he had 6 tickets for vacations. I didn't say anything, but then he looked at me and said, "One is for you." I said thanks, but not going. He seemed angry and said, "Okay, I had enough. Why don't you want to go?" Just because, I said, but then he asked the same questions 5 more times till the 6th time I said, "Because I hate your wife." Then he started asking why over and over again, so I ended up telling him the mean things she said to me. He was seemingly uncomfortable, but told us to finish our meal. No one talked for the rest of the night, and after we finished, I asked my stepdad to pick me up. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He just sent me a message asking if I changed my mind about the trip, but I said no. My cousin told me that my dad is staying at my grandparents' now. His wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life, but I just ignored her. My cousin says that the kids are hurt and crying because my dad isn't at home, and she says that I should just have said other things or agreed, and then tell him later that I wasn't going. My dad called me today, saying that if I changed my mind about the trip, it'd only be me, his sons, and him. But oh no, I told him that I'd think about it. He loves you and cares for you clearly. I know he does, and I love him back. I just don't like his wife. Update. Well, since a lot of you guys have been messaging me, asking about my situation, and I'm finally done with my finals, which means that I have time, here is an update. I didn't show my father the me messages she sent me, as many of you suggested, because I don't want this woman going around saying that I destroyed her life and all of her asterisk, so I didn't really do it and I won't. That's on her. My dad has been so apologetic, and after a few days I posted here for the first time, he picked me up to hang out, just the 2 of us. He apologized and even cried for not realizing before what the issue was. He said it was never his intention to make feel that way. He promised he'd never let her get between us again. He begged me not to hate him. I don't know where he got that from. I love him. Because he doesn't want me to cut him off, since he wants to be there for my wedding and also as a grandpa to my kids. And then he got a little emotional saying how much he loves, etc. He basically promised to be a better father. He asked me if I changed my mind about the trip, and I said yes, I'll go. It'll be just me, my dad, and his kids. It'll be in August, and I know she is furious for being excluded, but hasn't texted me or anything. So that's it. My dad and I talk more often, and we also hang out more. I've been to his house a couple of times, just for a few hours, but his wife and I just ignore each other. So that's it, I guess. I'm going on the trip with my dad and half-siblings. Someone asked me about the relationship I have with the boys. Well, we get along, thus we can't really do a lot of things together, since we have different interests. They are 8, 7, 5, all male. But I love them, and I know they love their big brother. They say it lol. Story 2. When my 40 husband, 38 meters, suggested open marriage, my marriage ended in my heart. He just asked me out of the blue about 7 to 8 months ago, and my initial reaction was, am I not enough for him? I mean, yes, I know I could made more effort. Lose these last stubborn 5 olves. Maybe put on sexy lingerie more often, I don't know. Spend less time with our babies, and not to sleep halfway through our movie night on Fridays, but it still came as a shock to me that he wasn't satisfied with our life. I thought we had a solid foundation of mutual love and respect, and we both have high sex drive. He explained that it had nothing to do with our love life or relationship. This could just be something more to add for the both of us. My marriage died then and there, in my heart at least. I didn't want to make any rash decisions while heartbroken and act without thinking carefully first. I said no and that it was nothing I ever wanted to try. He said that it was fine and that he loved me immensely. Now months have gone and I have been thinking carefully, but my initial feeling that my marriage died isn't changing. He has noticed and even complained that I have been distant and that he wanted me back, but I don't know. I don't think it is working for me anymore with what my husband suggested looming between us, even if he hasn't approached me with his suggestion again. It is not just the feeling of inadequacy that is putting a wedge between us, but the thought that he can imagine another man being with me, touching, kissing, and being inside me without it making him sick with jealousy. I even think this part hurt me more than in wanting to sleep with others. We have 2 children together, 4 and 1, and our marriage is working very well. We are compatible in every other aspect, and our babies are happy. How can I ask for divorce knowing that nothing will be the same for my babies anymore? I need advice on how to move on with him with all these feelings inside of me. I can't just divorce a man for asking me something and then respecting me when I said no. I just can't. Relevant comments: everyone is different. I am not in an open relationship, but we are swingers, and we live perfectly fine. I love my wife with all my heart and could never see myself with another person. Maybe seek therapy. I don't think he is a bad person or loves you any less. I know this because he had enough respect for you to bring this up instead of just cheating on you. Hope replied, I respect your way of life, but I don't want to live like you no matter how much you love it. I don't want a husband who is awkward with sharing me. I know it is a kink and many men even gets turned by the idea, but these men are not my type. This is a real turn-off for me both sexually and relationshipy. Hope replied, lol haha, you try so hard to make your lifestyle the superior one. It wasn't enough that I said I respected the way you view love and sex, even if it wasn't for me, no. You felt the need to shit on the way I want to live and love to feel good about yourself. I know many poly people and people in open relationships that are very abused and in very abusive relationships, so take it down a notch. Nobody is perfect. What you offer is not what I want. It is a huge turn-off for me. This is the whole point of my post. I'm turned off by my husband's request. Update. I want to start by thanking everyone who wanted to help me. I really appreciate you. Before I update, I wanted to maybe apologize for the poly people who found my post offensive. I don't know, but seeing that I was very clear in my post that your lifestyle wasn't for me, I don't know why you still made superior comments about how better off you are, and even making it sound like wanting a monogamous husband equals wanting an abusive, possessive husband. In what delusional world are you living? You know how many poly men/women I know who are in very abusive relationships. Why do you feel the need to shit on other people's choices to feel better about yours? What am I missing here? Anyway, I don't know about my feelings. I have spoken to my husband about how I was feeling. I told him how I was turned off by the whole thing and that even if he respected my no, something has broken inside of me and that I don't know how to mend it. How to find my way back. I told him that even though he would fully promise that he'd chosen me and the life we have together, I will always know that this is not really what he wanted. I told him that the thought of him being okay with sleeping with others, and the thought of him being that me his wife, being in someone else's arms makes me sick every time I think about it. I also asked him whether he was already sleeping with others or have had someone in mind. He swore up and down that this wasn't the case and gave me all his devices to check. He just wanted to try open marriage because, and I will paraphrase here, monogamy worked when people died when they were 40, but now, when we live till we are 80 to 90, maybe it wasn't enough. I'm the love of his life, and that won't change. But do we want to be exclusive for 4,050, 60 years? I asked him why he just doesn't want to commit to just me, until one or both fall out of love and we go our separate way, but he said that he didn't want to fall top love. He wanted us to be together because he loves our life, but also we could see other people so it doesn't get boring. I told him that the life he is dreaming of isn't the life I wanted at all. He was very alarmed and said that in that case, he chose me and our family. He would do anything to gain back my trust, including therapy. I will try that as last resort, but to be totally honest, I think we are over. I just don't want to throw in the towel without exhausting all options, because I want to look back and know that I did everything in my power to save my marriage. I've even contemplated giving him a pass to open the relationship on his end, but then I'm not sure if I could still be intimate with him. And then what kind of a marriage would that be? I know this is just an update, but please, if you have more, just hit me. Story 1. Bride invites me to wedding and expects me to pay for venue. Haven't spoken to her in 2 years too. So this friend I made in university and I were once close, until she got engaged 2 years ago, and cut off all her single friends cause she's too good for single friends and can only now have engaged or married friends lol according to her. I haven't spoken to her in 2 years since that and have since gotten over it since it's been a while. I hit an email today that I thought was spam. Turns out it was a wedding invitation, not personally from her, but from her coordinator inviting me to their wedding. At the bottom of the invite was a bill for $400 to pay for the venue plus $150 for the meal. I know this varies around the world, but where I and the bride and groom or maybe their family pays for the venue and food. Not random people you don't talk to. 20 people in total were invited to the wedding. You could see all the emails in the sent to bar. So I guess she's pretty much only inviting me to help pay a cost. I would never have the balls to do that to someone, especially after telling them we can't be friends cause you're engaged and can't have single friends. And no, I'm not the kind of friend that parties or drinks. She cut off any friend she had that wasn't engaged or married. I now know what they mean when they say weddings bring out the worst in people. Edit. After I declined to her coordinator, the bride messaged asking why I declined, so I'm gonna give my response. Edit. You can check December 26 or 27 at the latest for an update. So after she sent me the message asking me why I declined, I just said it's impossible to finance that. She didn't say anything. I spoke to the mutual friend. The mutual friend isn't going but was told about the mandatory payment, lol, prior to the invitations going out because basically like other users here suggested, I was like plan C of people to invite, and she realized needed people to come to this wedding, cause the venue gives her a discount if the quantity of people reaches a certain amount. Everyone in the wedding party is not paying, so I was like a last resort type thing. Basically like so many of you suggested. Since we are age all 23 to 24, not everyone who she invited was able to pay in the first place. So yeah, she was like, who's next on this list? Oh yeah, shades zero of cool. I guess she thought I'd forget about her reasoning for cutting off her fiends, but I don't. As for everyone wondering who the fiancé is, no one has met him. Not even the mutual friend, but he was in charge of a club at our university, and I've heard he's kind of a dick. So I guess she realizes like, you can't just cut friends off and send them at years later. That doesn't work. But she wanted to try her luck. He has a lot of friends as well, so I think his friends overshadow hers, and she just wants someone there for her. But no, you cannot harvest and bear fruit from a tree you never watered. Story 4. My husband texted me that he left for 2 days with no warning. Life has been stressful, and like a lot of people, we've been under a lot of pressure individually and relationally. I am sympathetic to needing a break for sure. He'd recently gotten a concussion as well, which is miserable, and had mentioned planning a solo trip somewhere a couple times, and he's done them in the past. We had talked about our day. I felt like we had a nice morning and I left to go run errands, and was going to pick him up after work. While I was out, I called him to ask a question, and he didn't answer. I was concerned he left his phone at home when he supposedly left for work. But a few minutes later, I got a text saying that he was feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and that he's sorry it's short notice, but he's leaving for 2 days to stay with a relative and disconnecting from his phone, and will text me tomorrow to check in, and that, hopefully, we can use this time to refocus. Like I said, I am so understanding of needing a break from life, and it seems like it was needed for him. However, I have conflicting feelings over this. I was beside myself worried. He's never just up and left, and I was freaking out until I could get a hold of his relative and make sure he was there, and was relieved to know he was safe. In moments of feeling so much that a person can't think is one thing, I've been there before too. But sending a text and immediately going no contact for 2 days is something that, as a spouse, doesn't sit well with me. If he had called instead of texted, or even called later in the day, maybe when he wasn't so overwhelmed, just to let me know he was alright, I would have been a different story. So the next day when he checked in, he sent me a text saying he was sorry I was blindsided by the sudden decision and knows this is uncomfortable for me, and thanked me for giving him time to process. When I asked if he could call just hear his voice, he said he couldn't do that and hasn't contacted me again. I know that when discussing mental health, it's important to prioritize the person struggling, and to say I'm upset he won't call me might seem kinda shallow. But truthfully, if I'm trying to be in a partnership with someone who just walked out the door, is concerning to me in regards to maintain trust, which we have been working on in counseling. I want to be supportive and understanding, but this hurt like hell. He is in therapy. I am in therapy, and we were supposed to have couples counseling today, ironically, but that's not happening now. I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to go forward. I'm not okay with how the situation happened. I feel so hurt. Am I being inconsiderate? I need help. Please throw me any advice. I feel like I'm drowning. Edit for an update. Thank you for the support, it was really helpful. The only person I could talk to about this has been out of cell coverage, and your comments helped me put words to feelings. I was able to speak with him on the phone, finally. After expressing my worries and frustrations, he told me he admitted leaving like he did was a bad decision, but he needed to take care of himself first and figure out what he wants before saying, "I'm sorry I caused you to worry, but I hope you can take some time and understand why I did that." I asked him to come up with a better apology that takes my feelings into consideration if he wants this relationship to continue. I point-blank asked, "Do you want me?" And the silence after that spoke louder than anything. Wow. He informed me that he is currently trying to decide what he wants from life, including our relationship. I told him that he'd need to make a decision pretty soon if he wants me to be an option. And when asked when he'd be returning, he said he doesn't know how many more days he'll be gone, but would let me know soon. As many pointed out, the concussion puts a variable in here. It is the only reason that I can think that would make him act like he never has in the past. And though devastated and in total shock, I'm going to hear whatever he has to say when he decides to come home. I have put off making my decision for the moment. Our whole world feels too askew to make one. I just can't believe this. We had a wedding and consider ourselves married, but are not legally married, so it makes things a lot simpler. Also, his relatives live out in the sticks and have been keeping an eye out because of the head injury. He might be acting like a dick, but he isn't a cheater. It feels like years since this happened, but I wanted to follow up on it. This community was incredibly helpful when I didn't have anyone to turn to, and I am really grateful for the people who were able to help. I had been so entrenched in fixing things that I couldn't even see how toxic this relationship had become and was taking on blame for things out of my control. By now, Lex had ended up calling me after a few days in hiatus and broke up with me over the phone. He requested that I just tell all of his stuff, but I told him he needed to come back and get it himself, which he did with the condition that I promised I wouldn't be there. Unfortunately, I had to clean out the rest of our apartment and deal with all the logistics of bills and felt like I had to harass him for the half of them when he wouldn't send it when I asked. He stopped talking to me, and it became known to me that he was telling his family that I was a narcissist and manipulative, the reasoning given of why he left so suddenly, and they completely cut contact as well. Many pointed to the head injury he had sustained as the reason this went down the way it did, and I definitely agree that was the catalyst, so I made sure his relatives knew about it in case he needed help. However, I couldn't do anything beyond accept that he was actively rejecting me, and I haven't seen him since the date he left. I had a soft place to land at my parents' house and started healing from there. I had already been seeing a therapist, and she was my godsend, and I was able to open up about some of the issues that I acquired during this relationship and really see it for what it had been, which was a clash of immaturity and mental health struggles that caused us both to inadvertently hurt each other all the time. I worked from the beginning, and still work some days, to not settle into resentment from the whole situation, knowing how heavy the weight of my own anger would weigh me down. And at this point, I can say that I can look at our relationship through the lens of we loved each other, but we outgrew each other, and the way he left was not okay. And I fully hold him accountable for that. I was hurting really intensely, but I started exercising and worked to be physically healthy and emotionally healthy at the same time. I had just found a treatment for chronic health issues I had been dealing with, so I felt like my life shifted into a new era. As the dust settled, I have been able to start going to college and found purpose again. I was ready to date again sooner than I initially thought I would have. I was still in the healing process, but I felt like that didn't limit me from having fun, hanging out with new people, and seeing what was out there. I ended up meeting someone really great pretty fast, which was a surprise to me, but a really good surprise. So far, things have been going really well and completely different than even the good portion my past relationship experience. I think my past self would have really cared a lot about what people think, or would have been unsure about a new relationship so soon. But I know myself and what I want from life so much better than when I started dating the first time and proved to myself that I have the strength to not only survive hurt, but to rebuild my life into something better than it was. Anyways, all this to say that if you're going through an ugly marriage and people are telling you to get out, and the thing that's stopping you from doing that is feeling like you'll never get back on your feet, it may take some time, but you will, and it's 100% worth it. Tidar, my husband left my out of the blue one day in the shittiest way. I posted about it here, got some good advice, and over a year later, I'm doing great without him. Don't let the fear of starting over dictate your life. We love those healthy marriages. Do not forget to subscribe and leave comments. Videos are released every day.